What's going on? I wanted to hop on here and do this, mindset video. I'm not too really huge on mindset, but this specific idea was one of the things that kind of transformed my life. And I don't say that lightly. Um, it was really understanding, you know, what identity actually is, what it means. And so I wanted to just present this to you in a way that you can understand it. And if you're truly trying to get success, number one, you have everything in here to do it. Like what we're teaching you is exactly what we're using to scale our clients' businesses every single day. But number two, um, you have to be set up for success. And when I say that, you've got to be right and you've got to be ready. And the only way to do that is to really, um, you know, prepare to go to war against who you currently are. That's the lightest way that I can say that. So your identity isn't just a collection of beliefs; it's a living system, right? It actively fights for survival. It's looking at every single scenario and trying to survive. It's the thing that makes you do things. It's the thing that makes decisions for you. It defends itself against threats. It seeks to maintain homeostasis. It resists any dramatic changes. It tries to fight for the overall to preserve its existence, just like any living thing. So I want you to think of your current identity as a living, breathing creature. It's evolved over the years between your experiences, your habits, your beliefs. It does not want to die. Even if you want to change, it still doesn't want to die. And I want you to think about the last time you really got upset. Somebody said something to you and they said something that got you so upset that it made you, oh, that is identity right there. And what happens is when we attach ourselves to this stuff, this is where we get into trouble because we don't allow ourselves to actually be who we are, which is an infinite creature. We just attach ourselves to this stake in the ground and say, no, this is who I am. And that causes a lot of problems. So when you try to change, your identity activates these survival mechanisms, right? So you try to make progress towards your goal. You set this goal, but the progress that you make threatens the overall existence of who you actually are. So the identity starts to activate these defense mechanisms like, oh, this isn't me. Your friends might even be saying to you, well, like, what are you doing, man? Who are you, right? Who am I? Right? Self sabotage starts to kick in. You start getting this imposter syndrome. All this stuff is happening, right? And eventually you just go back to who you are and everything is fucking good. That in itself is the killer of every success that you've tried to go after. When you realize that you can just, instead of sticking to the stake and holding on for dear life, you can pick the fucking stake up and go and put it in another place and say, no, this is who I am. That is when your life will change. So your brain really has this deep need for consistency between your actions and what you're doing and who you actually believe you are, like what your self-image says. So when you start performing at a level that threatens where you believe you are and where you currently are, it creates this sort of stress in your life. It's an existential crisis. Your identity is going to either fight back in one of two ways, depending on who you are. You're going to either die and be reborn as a new identity, which is extremely difficult. It's not the easy thing to do, or you'll self-sabotage yourself, and the identity will ensure its survival, like it does so many times. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. And obviously, most people unconsciously choose survival over evolution. And it's not that they do it; it's their identity and the things that they believe them to be. And there's this idea in science that you are who you are after 25, you can't change it. I mean, that's complete bullshit. Okay. We are infinite and we aren't anything. We are everything, right? Like you could do whatever you'd like. You don't attach yourself to one thing. You know, when you start to attach yourself to this identity, you lose who you are. And who you are is a resourceful individual that can really go after anything. I mean, I'm going to go on a tangent here, but there's a guy, he just recently passed away. Um, he lived inside of this thing called the iron lung. He got like contracted polio when he was really young, and then they ended up like losing all function of like all of his organs, so he had to get put into this big machine that essentially breathed for him and pumped his lungs. But the dude became a lawyer. The dude went on to write like a couple of books, like with his teeth, like he was writing them. And so the human spirit is one of the most resourceful things out there. I mean, it is the most resourceful thing out there as far as what we're considered to be living, right? And so it always amazes me. Like this guy was able to like he couldn't go anywhere, so he became resourceful and he had other people do tasks for him. And so as you go on this journey, if you find yourself not wanting to do something or not because you don't do this or you're not a technical person, like all of those little things that you're going to find yourself saying, that's what's going to be holding you back. Because the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you're technical or not. You could find somebody, you can go out there and do it yourself. You can make it happen if you're back against the wall. That's the beauty of the human spirit. So, some common defense mechanisms that I see inside of my clients are, and what you have to be watching out for is like the entrepreneur who sabotages his success because rich people are evil, right? That's a big thing. Or, my dad, told me that you had to work hard for your money, stuff like that. The dieter who binges because I'm just naturally big boned. Like, oh, my mom's big, my dad's big, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do what I do because obviously that's just how everybody is, attaching themselves to something right there. The salesperson who has a great month, they go out, they crush it. Like, what? Life is about to be incredible, but then they realize like, oh man, I'm not actually that person. I don't like to be pushy. I don't like to be aggressive. I don't want to ask people for money, you know. And back in the day when I was a student, I would see people who would self sabotage themselves and say, "I'm street smart. I'm not book smart," you know. And my wife was one of those people that would be like, "Oh, I'm not that book smart." But reality is like you could give her a math equation and she can come up with it instantly. But for whatever reason, she had attached herself at the time to that identity. And it's like all of these things that we build up and because of these beliefs that we have had or these experiences that we had one time, and then we attach to that for the rest of our life. It's absurd. It really is. And so you can really do whatever is in the realm of possibility, right? I'm not saying you're gonna, do something that's, impossible, but whatever is in the realm of possibility for your life, once you understand this concept, you can 100% achieve that easily. So, um, really the reality of it is each excuse is your identity just fighting for survival, literally fighting for its life. So, how do we break the survival response? Uh, to create a lasting change, you have to understand that your current identity is going to fight to live. It's gonna create excuses. It's gonna give you a reason why you shouldn't go and launch that ad, why you shouldn't go and write that copy, why you shouldn't start your school, why you shouldn't do this, why you shouldn't do that. It's gonna find evidence to support that. It's gonna go and then sabotage and threaten it. It's gonna hear for just one thing that your friends or your family are gonna say so that you say, "Oh, yep, that validates exactly what I was thinking." Okay, and it's going to recruit others, like I said, to reinforce it. I mean, it's going to do this. It's sickening, really. And what you have to understand is evolution requires death. It requires a complete shedding. You're not. This isn't something that like you gradually get better at. You just literally shed who you once were, and then you say, "This is who I'm going to become." You map out how you're going to do it, and every day you read how you're going to do it, and then you take one step at a time to become that person. It's really that simple, and then you believe that you're that person, and then you continue to act as if you're that person, and then you start to get the results that like that person would get, and then you reevaluate and say, "Oh well, wow," and then you come back and you do it again. But you have to understand that your old identity is going to have to die in order for you to have a new one be born. And this feels threatening because you're comfortable. It's your old self. Resistance and discomfort are signs that the old identity is fighting for survival. If you don't want to, like I said, if you don't want to have to craft an offer, if you don't want to get in a position to where you don't want to start your school community, or you just think that you can do it a different way, no, this is the way that works. We've scaled businesses literally from 10 grand a month to $126,000 a month in a couple of months with this strategy. It works. Do everything that we say. Because, ultimately, if you're not going to allow yourself to move forward, and you're not going to allow yourself to pick up the stake and put it down and say, no, this is who I want to be, you're not going to be able to break this survival response that happens. So the real solution comes down to this. Instead of fighting the identity's survival instinct, you just have to accept it. Accept the fact that we need to shed it. And understand that when you have resistance, that is how you know you're on the right track. When you literally say to yourself, no, I don't need to do this because I have to go, that is when you know you're on the right track. So you need to just start welcoming discomfort. Okay, you need to just see yourself as a master of the game, and see self-sabotage as just a fight for survival, the last breath of air of your old identity. Because when you create a new identity, you realize, number one, if you're in a country that has access to an ad account, and you have the means to be able to run ads even at a measly $10 to $12 a day, you're in a position where, you can really change your life. So focusing on becoming someone new rather than just achieving more is the change you've been looking for. You're not trying to achieve more with the person you are. You need to build complete different standards for your life that your old identity can't even survive. Like your best needs to just become your normal, right? Like actively feed and nurture your new identity. Always, always, always push towards the fact of this is who you are, because you control that. And like I said, you're going to have resistance. Your old identity is going to try to survive. But as you see results, celebrate that. And tell yourself, nope, that's you. You're done. So the key insight here is that your current identity isn't just a set of beliefs. It isn't just like these experiences that we've had. It's not just, a collection of this moment in time. It's literally a living system that's fighting for its last breath. So every time you try to change, you're not just building new habits. You're asking your current identity to die. You're telling yourself, like, I'm done with this, so someone else can be born. So I want to leave off. I know this video is going on, but I just really want you to understand that this isn't about going out and doing different things or adding new behaviors to your routine. It's really willing to be killing off the person who you used to be, so you can become the person that you need to become. And an exercise that I love to do is I will have my goal, and then I would list all of the traits, all of the characteristics, all of the habits, all of the beliefs that person would need to make that goal that I just set easy to achieve. Not like, how do I hit this goal? But like, who's the person that could hit this goal with ease? What does that person look like? And I just write those traits down, the habits, the characteristics, the beliefs. And then you look at it and it's clear as day who you need to become in order to achieve your goals. So the question isn't just who I need to become, but it's also, am I willing to let my current self die? All right. Hope you guys got some value out of this. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk soon. Peace.